On the streets of Pau in the southwest of France for round 8 of the FIA World Touring Car Championship. The cars are getting ready for the start of the race. And with Jordi Genet and Seat on pole position, behind him Augusto Farfus for BMW, Andy Priaulx for BMW and Felix Porchero for BMW. Well, the first race was packed with incident and accident, and this 2.7 kilometre street circuit lined with metal barriers and unforgiving walls is certainly a playground only to be undertaken by the brave. Hello everybody, I'm Martin Haven, alongside me David Leslie. And David, this Grand Prix of Pau venue has always been a demanding racetrack, a real challenge for drivers, and that's just as valid for these World Touring Car drivers as for any of their predecessors on this track.
Without a doubt, very demanding indeed, because these guys are used to having lots of space to play with, and they generally need lots of space because they tend to be running into each other door to door, taking wing mirrors off.
Welcome live to the streets of Pau, ready for round 8 of the FIA World Touring Car Championship. There is our race 1 winner, Alain Menu, who starts in 8th place with Jordi Genet's yellow Seat and the white BMW of Augusto Farfus on the front row. Red lights are on, away they go for 19 laps. Good start from Genet. Farfus will go around the outside. There goes Priaulx. Porchero looking inside of Priaulx for 3rd place from Genet, but Genet will hold him off. It's Farfus and Priaulx, the top two in the championship, and Priaulx gets a little nudge. Genet was inside him as they get into the station corner, but he survives that, and everybody is safely through the first couple of corners. Climbing up the hill, up the Avenue Napoleon Bonaparte to Pont Oscar, it's Augusto Farfus, who started 13th in race 1 and crashed heavily in qualifying, who leads the race. Andy Priaulx in 2nd, Jordi Genet in 3rd, Felix Porchero in 4th, Thiago Montero in 5th, Rob Huff in 6th position, a big bunch further back as they get out of the Lycée hairpin. And James Thompson just ahead of Tom Cornels, who's picked up a place. He started in 10th position. And David Leslie, it's no surprise to see Augusto Farfus going so well here. He was very quick, shooting for pole when he crashed just here in qualifying 24 hours ago. And he was determined to get onto the front row of the grid for race 2 and give his mechanics, who have not slept since that crash, a chance to score maximum points and win the race in the rebuilt BMW.
That's what he did. He needed to score really well in that first race, and he came from 13th through very quickly to 9th place, and from there he's able to capitalise when Larini fell out into 8th place, overtook Genet to take the 7th place, and then for starting off the front row he was always going to beat the Seat into the first corner, which he did, and Andy Priaulx was managing to get round there as well. So as you've seen, Genet really trying hard to keep Priaulx out, but it didn't actually happen to him, and he was able to stay in there. So you got the two BMWs, 1st and 2nd. Genet, another BMW with Porchero, then Thiago Montero with the Seat, who went so well, finishing 3rd place on the podium for the first time in that first race, who's now up there as well.
Yvonne Muller has a little look inside Rob Huff as we climb out to the Lycée hairpin. Huff in the Chevrolet all over the back of Thiago Montero. There's Alain Menu behind Yvonne Muller. They were 2nd and 1st, Muller and Menu, in race 1, and so they are chasing hard. But Montero has got ahead of Rob Huff because Huff was behind him in race 1, should be ahead of him in race 2. So it's a good start from Thiago Montero. 2 of the 19 laps completed there on lap 3, and Huff already under attack from Yvonne Muller. Muller wants more points from this weekend than just 2nd place. He would like to add more to that if he can fight his way up the order. after all his years of racing here. Ivan Muller raced here first on the streets of Po when he was just 18 years old. He really believes this is his, not only his race at home in France, but one of his best chances on a circuit where he might have an advantage to capitalise. But Huff's got away from him and again is attacking Montero. There's Jaime Puig, the Seat Motorsport boss, as Huff gets his nose just inside, but didn't push the issue too far and cause an incident. And that's so easy to do. And look, there's the Huff fan club watching and just mulling over that little move. He had a little look, but David, he could have stuck it out there and caused an incident, spun Montero out, but he preferred to race it clean and keep his powder dry. And there's a big bunch behind Sergio Hernandez. That's Luca Rangoni's been damaged. Emmett O'Brien is in there. Not James Thompson, that's Olivier Tielemans, and with the white roof is Miguel Freitas, and that's Stefano D'Aste. He's had a huge shunt there.
So that was it Rangoni who got in the back of D'Aste?
May well have been
damage
Hernandez
that was done when he got into the back of it. Hit it really, really hard.
Yeah, may well have been Hernandez because they were first and second. Safety car is out. They were first and second in the Independence Trophy in race 1. And that is Sergio Hernandez being craned away. Emmett O'Brien's car stuck there between the two Alphas. That is the Alpha of Miguel Freitas with the white roof, and the other one is Olivier Tielemans, car number 16. And Stefano D'Aste's BMW well wrecked. And yes, you can see on the right hand side there, 31, that is Sergio Hernandez. 30 is Rangoni, who was behind them. He was fourth in the Independence Trophy in race 1. So safety car is out and probably will be out only for a lap or so while they sort that out, unless they want to attend to that barrier, because that's had a bit of an old belt, hasn't it, from Stefano D'Aste's front end.
And you can see the safety car finding its way through there. Now, we did mention when we were talking about the previous race, which was the Formula International Masters, did it have the name on the back of the car? Yes, it does have the name on the back of the car, so you can tell the difference between the safety car and the medical car.
At least if you can read. We'll take a quick commercial break while they continue with clean-up in France. Safety car out here in Po, round 8 of the FIA World Touring Car Championship because of this incident involving Stefano D'Aste. This is a fast run down by the river towards Virage de la Gare, the station bend, and there's Emmett O'Brien, and he's well, is he still in the car? Is that him out of the car? No, that's the officials. They're trying to get the car to go. Now, he was stalled there in a big bunch of cars, and it looks like his GR Asia Seat, David Leslie, is not very keen on going much further.
No, it looks as though he's had a bit of a bash at the front as well, because the same as Hernandez. And I'm not sure why D'Aste had so much damage, because he had a front wheel missing as well. Maybe he'd lost a car, hit the barrier, and then as he came out, somebody else tagged him, and that's where all the accident damage came from.
The man we need to ask, because Stefano D'Aste, as you said, had got heavy frontal damage, and it is possible that he lost it or was tagged somewhere in the first corner, and Sergio Hernandez will possibly have some of the answers as to what happened. But Stefano D'Aste's car looks like it's pinballed a bit up and down the track. They can see Miguel Freitas' Alpha, Sergio Hernandez BMW, but Stefano D'Aste is the car that is most damaged and has yet to be moved off the track. And so we'll have to wait and see exactly what is going on with that, as they're still behind the safety car here on the streets of Po. Race leader Augusto Farfus, Andy Prio in second place. Jordi Genet was in third place. Thiago Monteiro again having a strong race here, and he's been increasingly competitive throughout the 3 race weekends he's partaken in. You saw what remained of Stefano D'Aste's car being craned away. He won the Independence Trophy in race 1 and clearly will not score here. Hernandez.
But I have the men's line. Okay. So, but what happened in English?
Now, from what you sort of saw there, that was, I guess he was talking to Miguel Freitas, racing for Belgium, Alfa Romeo's squad. What it looked like was, David, he was sort of explaining that he was arriving at the accident as it was happening. I'm not quite sure whether he was saying that Stefano D'Aste crossed over in front of him. May possibly have been a little bit like Olivier Tielemans getting hooked up across the nose of Tom Coronel at the start of race 1, trying to move over and catching the tail of the car on the car behind him, but I'm not quite sure. Obviously we don't have any footage of the incident, unfortunately, otherwise you'd be seeing it by now.
So the guy's still following the safety car around, but keeping the tyres warm, which you need to do around this very tight circuit, because once the safety car comes in, you really need that heat to be right on the pace straight away, because if you're not, believe me, the guy behind you will be. These guys all want to win, not just these races, but also the World Championship out there. And when you're driving for a manufacturer, the pressure really is on to do well. And you've got the 2 BMWs out front, with Jordi Genet coming up in 3rd place. And there's various menu going through there behind Huff. We've now got our live timing
screen working.
Work out exactly what's going on, because right behind Genet, who we knew was in 3rd, was Patero with the BMW, Montero there with the Seat Leon, then Rob Huff, then Ivan Muller and Alain Menu.
Behind the safety car, ready to go green here. And Augusto Farfus leads the queue at high speed down the hill across the start-finish line. Safety cars already in the pits, so the Brazilian did a very good job at the restart, slowing right down to give himself a big margin for error. That was Rob Huff looking at Thiago Monteiro. That didn't happen for him. And as they come line astern again, he looks, this time he's inside. This time he's going to stay inside. So through the station he gets through, but the next corner at the top of the hill is a very tight left-hander. Monteiro needs to stay where he is, and it'll come back to him. Good battle there, and right behind, Ivan Muller with Alain Menu chasing, and Porchero does know what he's doing, stays right there, Thiago Monteiro rather, and retakes the place from Rob Huff. So a good long battle there over nearly a quarter of the circuit for that position. Huff bounces over the curbs as they get out of the Lycée hairpin once more, climbing up past the park, and James Thompson on the move. Thompson having a look at the car in front of him. That's Michel Jourdain Jr. Replay from Ivan Muller. That's Huff over the curbs there, right behind Thiago Monteiro. And Muller got in very close behind, and Huff just couldn't quite squeeze his nose around the inside without making contact, but no harm, no damage done. Farfus leads, Prio 2nd, Jordi Genet in 3rd, then Porchero dropping away a fraction in 4th, but he's still there. Monteiro now, like in race 1, is the man who's making it exciting for everyone behind him. Rob Huff, then Ivan Muller, then race 1 winner Alain Menu, then James Thompson. Did he get ahead of Jourdain? He didn't. Well, that is to try and get up into 9th place, 1 away from the points. Don't forget, double race winner in Valencia. Thompson has not scored here so far in Poe, and he'd love to go away with any kind of points here at all. Oh, and that's Menu inside Ivan Muller. Muller's half spun. Menu just managed to check his progress enough to give Muller a chance to survive.
There's a real battle there between the Seats and the Chevrolets further back, between you're talking about 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th place, and they're having their own sort of private little battle back there. But up front, 2 BMWs with Genet really hanging on to the back of them, which is rather good for Genet, having finished in 8th place in the first race. He really is hanging along with them and not letting them get away. But you can see that train, there's nobody really stretching away in this second race like there was in the first race. It is a constant train all the way back through the field.
Well, don't forget Farfus and Prio both with major weight on board. Farfus with 40 kilos of success ballast, Prio with 55 kilos on board. They're 1st and 2nd. Genet in 3rd place, carrying just 5 kilos of ballast, and he's got a 25 kilo lighter car to start with as well. So 20 kilos lighter, including his success ballast, plus 55, so he's 75 kilos lighter than the 2 cars in front of him, and that's why he's staying right with Farfus, and particularly right with Prio, who's 75 kilos heavier than him. Farfus is 60 kilos heavier. But here comes Jörg Muller. Jörg really off form here this weekend, 12th place behind Tom Coronel at the moment, not looking as though he's going to make it very easy job of getting by either. Jörg Muller carrying 55 kilos and all sorts of woes here, looking back from Tom Coronel, and that is Muller right there.
yeah, really tends to do better in the races he does in qualifying, and if he qualifies very well, then he does get some very good results out of the weekend. But there's not a lot of space around this circuit for him to have his usual making up positions, and as much as he would like to try right hand side, left hand side, he really is struggling to make any headway in this really tight circuit at Poole on the streets here, because there isn't the space. Because if he makes a single mistake, then he'll be heavily into the barrier, and that's the last thing he wants, because he really needs to be out there scoring some points. He's still up there at the championship. He's lying second in the championship, although he scored no points in the first race, and it doesn't look as though he's going to be scoring any points in the second race either.
No, exactly right. He's a long way from the points. If he gets by Tom Coronel, then he's got Thompson to deal with, then he's got Jourdain to deal with, then he's got to get by race 1 winner Alain Menu, the quickest car on the track in race 1 and in qualifying and in almost all of the time sessions they've had here. So that would be only for 8th place. So it's a very tough ask, but Jörg is not a man who likes to give up, so he will push until the checkered flag falls. Meanwhile, Augusto Farfus trying to push as well. Opened up half a second over Andy Prio, and Genet with Portiero for close company. Portiero carrying no success ballast at all, so his car is only 20 kilos heavier than Jordi Genet's Seat at the moment. Jörg Muller having a little run up by the casino, but such is the equal performance of these cars under acceleration up the hill there, David. It's just really not out. That was out of the station up Avenue Bonaparte, not past the casino, but there's just no advantage. It does actually seem that the rear-wheel drive cars, look here out of the hairpin, the BMWs slide up over the pavement as they're powering up the hill, whereas the front-wheel drive cars seem to be much neater, able to get the power down perhaps a little better, which seems bizarre compared to a rear drive car.
I think they're using the rear-wheel drive and be able to slide it around to try and keep the momentum going through the corners, and certainly out of that hairpin, as you said, on almost every lap they slide the car out up over the top of the curb, which the front-wheel drive cars are not doing. But see, more of them now are using these curbs than they were earlier on. I think once they've been out there racing with their compatriots, they're seeing what they're doing and think, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And then maybe someone will be thinking, well, why didn't I do that at the very beginning for qualifying? That might have got me a little bit further up the grid. But it's like everything else. You heard Jörg Muller before this weekend started say that, you know, to learn the circuit it takes more than one weekend, and it's now in the second race you can see where a lot of the other guys are suddenly jumping over many more curbs than they were at the start of the weekend.
That's exactly right. They've had 19 laps of furious concentration in race 1 to really embed the racing line and to see how much more they can explore, and probably by the end of the race, particularly for the Pau Virgins, they will be going quicker than at any stage so far in their first experience of this street circuit. Change of position there as Felix Portiero dives inside Jordi Genet. We still have a Spaniard in third, but Genet's got bumped down the order. Portiero third, Genet has gone down to 6th position. Here's how it happened. This is at the Lycée. Portiero over the curbs on the inside, bumps inside Genet, quick as a flash. Look at Thiago Montero's reaction. Dive to the inside. I'll have some of that. Rob Huff is through as well. Once the door was open there, Genet momentarily perhaps in the wrong gear, and Portiero's missed his braking. He's gone off at Foch, and through goes Montero, through goes Huff. Here comes Genet. Right, mate, let's see how you like a bit of pressure from behind. The two Spaniards, there will be no love lost. Broken suspension, broken left front corner, probably steering there, David, after that contact with Genet at the hairpin.
When it went round that right hander, when it went wide, it looked as though it was on 3 wheels, as though there was something wrong with one of the suspensions, and obviously when he got to the next corner wanted to turn left, he just simply wasn't going to do that. He's gone down the slip road, so unfortunately that's the end of Portiero. Very good weekend for him so far up until that point. He really has been showing well, but here he comes through there. He's through now. That you can see, yes, the left hand rear wheel is not going where it should do. It's not pointed the same as the right hand front wheel, not rear, front I should have said. And when he gets into the next bit, it really is struggling. That's the onboard camera. Now you can see him coming down the hill. He's struggling through there. Oh, another two getting into each other.
Dear, oh dear. And that is our commentator, Anthony Beltoise, having a lurid moment with Luca Rangoni.
And Rangoni managed to survive the first lot of accidents in that first incident when the safety car came out, but unfortunately I don't think he's been able to survive that one as well.
No, Beltoise is still 16th place and second independent, so he's got Maurizio Cerasoli now third in the Independence Trophy in the GR Asia Seat Leon, and that was the battle for second in the Independence Trophy. Meanwhile, Thiago Monteiro third, Rob Huff fourth, as they were in race one, this time behind Farfus and Prio. Race 1 winner Alain Menu currently lying in 7th place, chasing Ivan Muller downhill and across the line. Augusto Farfus leads from Andy Prio by not much, just under a second. Thiago Monteiro, Rob Huff third and fourth. They've swapped places already, one going past the other and then the other going past the first, and so that battle is far from dead for third place. Jordi Genet down to 5th, Ivan Muller 6th, his teammate Alain Menu 7th, and Michel Jourdain 8th place. So at the moment we've got 4 Seats and 2 Chevys and 2 BMWs in the top 8 positions. All the 3 manufacturers, or the 3 major manufacturers, buying Alfa Romeo in the points at the moment, and Thompson 9th might possibly get onto the back of Jourdain and get an Alfa into the points as well before the end of the race.
Yeah, Jeremy Thompson did say to us that he felt his car was very good, but for various reasons he didn't get qualifying right, had problems with the car, and therefore qualified further down. And then we've always said it's difficult to come through from the back, even more difficult when you get to street races. You can see just how much these guys are throwing these cars over the top of the curbs and really sliding them around through the corners. And it has to be very much a controlled slide, because if you get it wrong at all, then you're very quickly into the barrier and you've got a major problem in your hands. But Monteiro sticking there in third place with Hoff right behind him. Menu there trying to keep up with Ivan Muller and Jordi Genet just in front. But here's the place for third, the fight for third between Monteiro and Hoff. And Hoff trying every which way to get past. He won't give up, he will keep on trying all the way through. But these two now have been allowed to get away a little bit on their own, which are Augusto Farfus and Andy Prio. Now Andy Prio I think will be quite happy, won't be happy at all sitting behind Augusto Farfus, but he knows he'll be scoring good points. He had a good result in the first race and he wants a good result in the second race, and a nice second place will help his points tally no end.
Absolutely right, and with the dramas already this weekend for Gabriele Tarquini, Thiago Monteiro looks like he might end up being the second best point scoring Seat as they head away from here and off to Brno in the Czech Republic. Jörg Muller behind Alex Zanardi, who had problems in race 1. Jörg Muller in 11th place, Zanardi in 10th, but the points only run down to 8th, so neither of them will get anything from here. And Tom Coronel's in, left front tyre being replaced by the GR Asia boys. Tom Coronel not having much fun in this race weekend that celebrates his 100th European Touring Car and World Touring Car participation, so he bails out of the car, and that's a big shame for him. But it moves James Thompson right onto the tail of Michel Jourdain, and within a sniff of the points. Farfus leads Prio. This is third and fourth Monteiro in the yellow and blue Seat, and Rob Huff behind him in the Chevrolet Lachetti. Jordi Genet with the red windscreen strip leads teammate Ivan Muller. They are 5th and 6th with Alain Menu in 7th. Jourdain in 8th. 9th with Zanardi right behind him now is Thompson, so Zanardi's pulled away from Jörg Muller and gets it wrong and punts off Tomo, but somehow James Thompson survives. Here comes Jörg Muller. Thompson's slow, Jörg Muller's going to get Zanardi and he'll be right behind Thompson. No, he won't get Zanardi. Well, that was a really lucky break for Thompson and Zanardi, somehow to avoid spinning and the barriers there with that contact.
You see the front of James Thompson's car's got some damage, and I think that damage will be hurting him, because the air intake at the front for the engine is somewhere around about where the radiator's all been bashed in the front of that car, so maybe he's not getting the air into it. He needs to be able to breathe properly. But here's the battle for first, and De Prio not giving up. He would like those points, because when they're finished, if they finish like this, I reckon they're going to be somewhere about same position in the way of points. So you have to say that if Andy can finish ahead of if Andy Prio can finish ahead of Augusto Farfus, then he would come out of the championship ahead on his own.
Last 2 laps, David, there was 0.9 then 0.8 of a second between them. That's 0.2 or 0.3. Somewhere Farfus has made a mistake and Prio is again, climbing all over his boot lid. And this again gives Andy Priaulx every justification for his tactic of never giving up, trying to score that extra point. And again, Rob Huff, he's been alongside Thiago Monteiro. He's almost got by before. Now he's got the headlights on. Okay, Sonny Jim, here we go. We're getting into the closing stages. 4 to go after this one. And 5 to go after this one, and there are some very good battles on. Thiago Monteiro can't take that podium position for granted, nor will he. There's Genet in 5th. There is Yvan Muller with still Alain Menu climbing all over him, lap after lap of pressure. Again proving Menu is quicker than the man that he out-qualified this morning, riding with Yvan Muller up the hill. And this speed camera shot on the Armco shows just how fast they're going. But Priaulx's all over Farfus now for the lead, and Huff all over Monteiro behind for 3rd position. And again, Menu being playing fast and easy with the curbs, riding everything he wants to. Clearly the Chevrolet has got a very compliant setup here for Alain Menu to ride over these curbs the way he is doing.
Yes, and he really is trying very hard to get past Yvan Muller, but Yvan Muller, who knows the circuit so well round here, he'll find it very, very difficult, even if you have the fastest cars, which we believe that Menu has round here. He was on pole position after qualifying, but to get past somebody, much more difficult. But Priaulx there, you see, still chasing Farfus up the hill, Huff still chasing Monteiro up the hill. And then we've got up behind that Genet a little bit on his own before he got Yvan Muller and Alain Menu really pushing hard. He would like to get past him. He knows he can't do it. He really shouldn't be rubbing the car. He shouldn't be having any damage to get past. But that's going to be very, very difficult round this so tight post-circuit street circuit.
Well, as they come into the Lycée, Menu has rarely been closer. This is going to be a grand-standing finish. Climbing the hill once more, through the park, past the casino. The Chevrolet boys loving this, and why wouldn't you? Huff in 4th, pushing it hard. Menu, the race 1 winner, in 7th, also pushing very hard. The only slight disappointment is that Nicola Larini, who was 4th coming here in the points, is outside the points at the moment in 11th position after that suspension breakage in race 1. But here's our battle for the lead at the end of lap 17 of 21. 4 remain as they get to the line. Augusto Farfus by a whisker from Andy Priaulx, doing just enough to keep his heavily laden BMW ahead of Priaulx's even more heavily laden BMW. Monteiro 3rd, easing away from Huff, but again look at Priaulx sticking his nose out wide, forcing Farfus onto the defensive, making sure there is no rest at all for the race leader. And that's exactly how you have to play this game, David. Try and force an error, because passing really expects the driver in front to make a mistake somewhere for it to be possible.
That's right, and Andy is just going every which way to try and make his life as difficult as possible. Out wide, trying to come out tight to try and get out beside him. Didn't quite work. The only thing he hasn't done is what Rob Huff has done, is try the mind games, i.e. switch on the headlights. Let's try and bamboozle him by saying, you know, headlights are on, I want to come through, and it just puts a little bit more pressure quite often on the driver in front. And Andy hasn't got round to doing that bit yet, where Rob Huff has. But you know, these are 2 guys both for BMW, whereas Rob Huff is trying to, with his Chevrolet, trying to get past a Seat. So that's 2 different manufacturers, and no, headlights are now off again. Because remember, if you switch the headlights on, you have to power those headlights somehow or another. It needs electricity, and that usually means the alternator has to work harder. If the alternator has to work harder, it takes power away from the engine. It's not very much, but it does make a bit of a difference, especially on the bigger, faster circuits. But round here you can see Priaulx still now right behind Farfus. Rob Huff, headlights still on, but dropping a little bit behind Monteiro. And I think when it comes to the twistier bits, that's when Rob Huff is really right on his tail. But you can see here, this is where Andy Priaulx had a look round the outside of Augusto Farfus, thinking he could go out wide and then cut back. You see, there you are, you see this? Rob Huff straight, no, it's not, that's Alain Menu in the back of Yvan Muller. trying every which way he can to try and get past, and finding it very difficult indeed.
Well, Menu again looking around the outside of Ivan Muller at Pont Oscar, and part of this perhaps to force Muller to take a tighter inside line, to compromise his exit on the run up to the hairpin. Hasn't worked yet. And again, I wondered about Prio there, exiting the hairpin. If he went out really wide and was just around the tail of Farfus, Farfus can't get the power on, slides so wide on the exit up the hill. Maybe Prio was playing the long game by making Farfus compromise his line out of the hairpin to try and get him not even at the top of the hill here, but maybe exiting Foch, or pile the pressure on going into Foch, where of course Farfus had his big accident at the end of qualifying. But it still hasn't worked. It hasn't worked for Menu, it hasn't worked for Prio. It worked momentarily for Huff, but Montero had the road come back in his direction to deny Huff what was then 4th place and has since become 3rd position. Well, again, this is Alain Menu around the long way, forcing the pressure on Ivan Muller. And between the two French-speaking drivers who finished 1st and 2nd in race 1, a lot of respect, but an awful lot of close racing. No quarter asked and none expected to be given either.
No, they've tried very hard. They've tried to go down the inside at Menu has earlier on, didn't quite make it, got into the back of Ivan Muller. The two of them touched, and Alain Menu, I'm sure, doesn't want to do that again. But you know, he's got a little bit of pace, but he just can't get past him, because Muller puts himself where he knows he can't get past it. So he just puts himself a little bit on the inside, because you can't go up the inside into that corner there, Point Oscar, and so there's just nowhere for Menu to go. He tries right, he tries left, he does everything except run over the top of the guy.
Well, that's the only thing left, and on the penultimate lap he's not going to try that either, because points are important to all of them no matter where they are in the race. So Ivan Muller, well, that last lap certainly, as he comes up from the Lycée hairpin, or from the Virage de la Gare, the 2nd corner, Alain Menu has got the faster car. He just can't get by Ivan Muller. He can get almost completely alongside in that short run up on the Avenue Napoleon Bonaparte, and that's an uphill section, but he can't do it. Coming down towards the last lap of the race then, Augusto Farfus with Andy Prio, 2-3 tenths of a second behind him, that's all. 1st and 2nd. Thiago Montero still with Rob Huff all over him as they start their last lap. A chance for Prio perhaps. Well, Prio has been in this position many times following Jörg Muller towards the end of the race in Valencia. I know I was faster, I could have passed, but Jörg defended very cleanly and very sensibly, said Andy, and in the end we are two BMW drivers. You can't take each other off, and that's exactly the situation he finds himself behind Augusto Farfus, and he would expect the same discipline from his BMW stablemates if he were to be leading under such pressure, and probably will have that given to him later in the year. Thiago Montero with Rob Huff battling for 3rd place. Montero again going for a podium position here in Po. He'll be the only 2-time podium finisher, because Farfus and Prio finished down the order in race 1. Andy Prio was 6th, Augusto Farfus 7th, but despite the pressure from Rob Huff, Thiago Montero looks like he'll hold on to 3rd place. Last chance will be a run to the flag, and look at Prio ditch hooking around this circuit, using all the pavement he can find, bouncing over the curb for the final time, rushing to the line. But it's Augusto Farfus who's going to win race 2 in Po after dramatically crashing out at the end of qualifying, starting not in 3rd place where he'd been, but 13th. He came onto the grid with a chance of winning, and it's rewarded the Schnitzer mechanics, who have not slept since Friday night, with victory in race 2. 2nd for Prio, 3rd for Seat's Thiago Montero, 4th for Rob Huff in the Chevrolet, 5th for Jordi Genet, 6th for Ivan Muller for Seat, 7th for Alain Menu for a Chevrolet, and 8th place, a single point for James Thompson, who won both races from a pole position in Valencia last time out. So what a dramatic race weekend it's been in terms of incident, accident, and if you didn't see the Farfus accident earlier on, just go to YouTube and search Augusto Farfus Po 2007. You'll see it there in all its spectacular glory, and what a reward for the mechanics. That's the sort of reward that mechanics work overnight for. They do it because it's their job, but when you give the driver his car back after he's binned it and he goes out and wins the race for you, Alemenyu, then that's where all the respect comes for the team and for the driver. Augusto Farfus, our round 8 winner here in Po. We'll be back. Stay with us. Andy Priaulx congratulated as he takes the lead of the championship with Augusto Farfus here after round 8 of the FIA World Touring Car Championship on the streets of Po. Well, Augusto Farfus, Andy Priaulx and Jörg Müller were the top 3, tied for the lead after the first 2 races in Brazil. They're still the top 3 in the championship. Priaulx and Farfus on 42 points, Jörg Müller on 41, despite not scoring a bean here on the streets of Po. Farfus scored 12 points. So did Alemenyu, so did Thiago Monteiro. Andy Priaulx scored 11, so you can see who the big winners were around the streets of Po. And the big winners here, Augusto Farfus and the BMW Team Germany Schnitzer mechanics. What a great job they did. He was shooting for pole, 3rd fastest in qualifying, didn't get it, binned the car spectacularly. The mechanics worked all night and half the morning to get it ready for the races. He started 13th, got into 7th place in race 1. From the front row of the grid, he won race 2. And there's a great degree, David Leslie, of respect, admiration, and dare you say it, love building up between this young Brazilian and the team that he spent the last 2 seasons trying hard to beat.
That's right, but we know from last year the BMW drivers were asked not to jump up and down the roof because it would bend, but his roof is already really well bent, so he thought he'll just prepare to a little bit more. Jumped up and down, he's got an even bigger dent in it now.
Well, you see how tired the mechanics are looking, and the heat on the streets here in Po has not been helping. Since qualifying ended yesterday afternoon, they have been in the garage rebuilding that car. Took an hour for the FIA to agree that they would be allowed to even try and rebuild it. They had to prove that none of the major chassis components were damaged, that the frame wasn't cracked, and then they were allowed to rebuild it. They got it just about ready to go for morning warm-up, and then they spent most of the time between then and race 1 finalising the setup. And Augusto Farfus has rewarded them in the best way he knows how, scoring as many points as anybody else this weekend, and with another race win, his 2nd of the season. So let's get down there and catch up with our happy race winner, Augusto Farfus Jr.
Augusto Farfus, could you expect such a finish of the weekend after the accident in the qualifying?
Definitely not. It was a very tough weekend since the beginning. We did a very good car. I have to say thanks for all the guys in BMW. Unfortunately, in qualifying, I had an accident. They did a wonderful job. They repaired the car, and I'm again on podium. So I just have to say thanks from Charlie to everybody which was helping me.
Thank you.
David wiping the sweat out of his eyes, clearly very hot work indeed, and this is what triggered the dramatic weekend. It was always going to be a tough weekend for him, with a 10-spot penalty after causing an accident in the eyes of the stewards in Valencia. So 3rd place, he was shooting for pole, didn't get it, dropped to 13th on the grid, and from there on, even without all of that damage that the mechanics had to fix, it was always going to be a tough uphill struggle. But that just added extra drama to what was already going to be a very high drama weekend for him, and he comes away with a race win with the joint lead of the championship. Job done, respect earned.
I think he's done a fantastic job, because he knew before he even started this weekend with a 10th place grid penalty drop because of what happened the previous weekend. He had an uphill struggle, then he just bounded that when it happened to turn the car upside down. Mechanics, as you said, as he said, have done a fantastic job to turn the car around and make it work as well as it was before. And he's gone out there, scored well in the first race when he got his 7th position, and went out and won the 2nd race. We said he had a very good opportunity, probably would do that with Andy Priaulx right behind him all the time, waiting to take that place away. I'm sure it could have been a fraction quicker if he could have got past. He couldn't get past. That was the difference. And now we see the difference in points. Andy Priaulx 42, Augusto Farfus 40 points, pulling away now gently from Jörg Müller, who scored no points at all this weekend. Ivan Müller scored well at 28 points. Nicola Larini scored no points this weekend. James Thompson an extra couple. So the points constantly going up for the guys at the front.
So we will have the words from our top three in just a moment, but Andy Priaulx with a 2-point advantage now over Augusto Farfus, so my math's not as good as David's, clearly. I can't read or write properly, but we'll take a look at some of the highlights of this second dramatic race around the streets of Po. And of course, with the BMW of Farfus starting on the front row of the grid, it was always a possibility that he was going to beat Jordi Genet to the drop and get the win, and that's exactly what happened. It was far from dull though. Andy Priaulx moving up at the start in the second place. Safety car after Stefano Daste's high-speed clatter across the barriers, and Alain Menu and Ivan Muller, the top two in race one, having a dramatic race two long battle. Damage for Felix Portiero passing Jordi Genet cost him a race position and cost Genet a chance of finishing on the podium. That went to his teammate Thiago Monteiro, who chased the BMWs home as they had another 1-2 for the Munich manufacturer. We'll be back with the reaction from our top three. Stay with us. There's Augusto Farfus's fan club, his girlfriends of course leading them, but those other contingent in the Schnitzer shirts are certainly huge fans of Augusto Farfus now, whereas in years before he's been one of the men they loved to hate. Top independent on the podium, Pierre-Yves Courtals, but Augusto Farfus there, our race winner. Thiago Monteiro, as he was in race one on the podium, third place, so what a great race weekend for the Portuguese. 2 podium finishes for the first time in the World Touring Car Championships. He was on the podium in race one and again in race two. Andy Priaulx keeps his point scoring in every race streak alive for BMW Team UK and his RBM crew. And our race winner, after a 0-0 in Valencia, Augusto Farfus was down. After qualifying, it looked like he might be out. But no, he and Schnitzer are made of sterner stuff. And I have to say, and Priaulx probably won't like to think much about it, but Farfus looks like he's getting the sort of breaks that make a champion. And look at him, he's such a different driver from the young man who came to Alfa Romeo 3 years ago. He really looks like a very complete package as a racing driver this year. Well, there is Pierre-Yves Courtals, and I think I'm right in saying, David, that's his first win in the Independence Trophy, so that's a major landmark for the driver of the Hexagon Engineering Monroe car, and another big weekend for him. Crashed in qualifying on his first flying lap, didn't make the 100% rule, started stone last on the grid, and there he is, winning the Independence Trophy in race two. So another really, really hard-working race weekend for him.
That's right, he has done exceptionally well out of that, and he finished just ahead of Anthony Beltoise, the guy who came in just for this one race, somebody who knows the circuit extremely well. And third in the Independence was Chris Oley, who's only started the last race meeting in Valencia, and we understand will be carrying on with GR Asia for the rest of the year.
So yeah, Maurizio Cerasoli also in the Independence points, and most of the other front runners from the series, Stefano Daste, Sergio Hernandez and Luca Rangoni, all fell by the wayside here. So as the girls try and escape, they get busy with the fizzy and spray the crowd with a bit of a welcome, cool, bubbly. And we'll stay with them and see what their take on the race weekend was. I'm sure that Augusto Farfus will do little more than echo his huge thanks to the Schnitzer team. Andy Priaulx will be very pleased indeed. Points in both races, and 11 points for Priaulx this weekend, 12 for Thiago Monteiro, 12 for Augusto Farfus. But those three on the podium have been the big winners this weekend. Jörg Muller, on the other hand, the 0-0 thing has hit him again, and Jörg has dropped, well, 11 points off the series lead. It's not a huge margin, but it's got to stop if he's to stand any chance of being a contender.
You really need to finish in the points to be winning a World Championship. A World Championship is not won by having 0-0 finishes at any race meeting whatsoever, and Jörg had some very good results up until now. He had 1-0 also in Zandvoort in the first race, and with a 0-0 now, that's 3 zeros he's had, no point scores, and that's what's really making life difficult for him. He needs to get onto the game, but his game has to raise. This man that's on pole position, on the top of step there, who won the race, Augusto Farfus, his teammate, is making his life really difficult. Before this year, it was always two Germans driving for the BMW team. BMW decided to change that and take a young driver they've seen do very well at Alfa Romeo. They got him on board, and what work has he done for them? He's done a fantastic job. Even if he is very, very excitable and he goes off and had that accident in qualifying, he can then come back with a completely rebuilt car and put it right back there onto a points finish, front of the grid, take the overall win in the second race. Now that's what Jörg Müller's up against. He really does need to raise his game if he's going to try and compete against Augusto Farfus.
Farfus there trying to get the champagne out of his ear. You know what it's like when you've been swimming and you get the water in your ear and you can't hear? That's exactly what he had. Of course, the other big winner this weekend, 8th place, brought his tally up to 11 points this weekend. Alain Menu, the winner of race 1. Unlike Zandvoort, he scored again in race 2, so he's now got 2 race wins. And here is our race 2 winner, Augusto Farfus.
Augusto Farfus, an incredible race with amazing start and afterwards a tough fight against Andy Priaulx. Maybe you can talk us a little bit through your race.
Let's say I had a wonderful weekend apart the accident which I had in qualifying. And from that accident, the guys did a wonderful job. It was very hard to repair the car. They worked the whole night, and this morning I had a wonderful car to drive. Second race was quite tough. Andy was quite close to me, but this track is quite tricky to overtake, and I was not pushing too much because I was scared to save the tires. Anyway, I just have to say thanks to the team, because this win is just because they did a wonderful job.
In the championship, you're now in P2, 2 points behind Andy Priaulx, and with a quite gap to your teammate Jörg Müller. Can we expect a duel now between you and Andy for the rest of the season?
It's quite early to say. We have still a long season ahead. Many things could happen. I think the championship is still open for everybody, so the main thing will be keep the focus to finish the race, to score points, and then we will see what will happen to Macau.
Thank you.
Well, he's absolutely right. At the moment, our points leader on 42 points. There's a maximum of 160 points still on offer. So mathematically, somebody who we've not even seen in a car could still win the championship. It is very early to be counting chickens. But I think that Augusto Farfus has really got the makings of a very serious championship run going here. And Andy Priaulx will no doubt see him as one of his most close rivals.
Andy Priaulx, Mr. Consistency, you are the only one who scored points in every race, and now you took the overall lead in the championship.
Yeah, I'm very, very pleased. I mean, when you're given a heavy tennis racket to play with, it makes it difficult to hit the ball. But to be honest, I mean, we've been consistent, we've been fast, the team have been fantastic with the car. I'm very, very happy. It's so far been my best race yet, I would say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Short, sharp and to the point as ever. Andy Priaulx cuts the messing and gets straight down to it. And again, as we said, so far 8 races and 8 points scores, and it's on the back of that. Even though he's not won yet, the Priaulx is leading the series.
Thiago Monteiro, second race here in Pau, second time on the podium. You seem to like the south of France.
Yeah, I mean, I started my career in France, and now I'm back after a few years in France, and it's working well for me, of course. Now, you know, one of those races, I wanted to push right from the beginning, and it's impossible to overtake. It's very difficult to overtake here. So there was a lot of fights, of course, and you have to stay out of those problems. And then I had this Chevrolet Huff behind me, putting a lot of pressure throughout the whole race. So it was a difficult race, not as smooth as this morning. I'm so happy. Thank you for everyone, you know, Seat and all my team. They did an amazing job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, he really is looking a very strong contender as well, Thiago Monteiro. He's found his feet very quickly, he's found his pace, and now he seems to have found the luck that gets him to the end of races. But an impressive race weekend indeed for Augusto Farfus, and despite a 10-place grid penalty and a practice crash, he will come away from Pau in France perhaps with very fond memories indeed. It's certainly been a big race weekend for him. Next time out, Brno in the Czech Republic. But until now, from France, it's goodbye.